Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Wednesday, the 16th of December. All right, now a pretty decent sort of risk-on profile with the market finishing the North American session. Most equity markets up across the board. They're over 1%, right? So that's given us a bit of a risk-on sort of day. And if you look at the correlation matrix, the Dow Jones and dollar yen like completely inverse, but almost 98%. So as the Dow rallies, dollar yen goes down. It's a pretty easy correlation to sort of match there, and keep an eye on the positive relationship there with gold and silver. Rest of the pairs, there's a little bit here and there, but you really have to go fishing to find out the answers, and that's usually not where they are. So if I just bring you back to what the dollar's doing itself, right? It's just been tracking sideways. Now we've been waiting for the main event, right? And that's the FOMC meeting. Obviously, the talks about stimulus packages and things like that in the US, rollouts of vaccines and everything else. But to me, this whole pause and the way it's just starting to drift, the market is, I think, very comfortable with the level of where the dollar index is or the dollar is. And actually, in fact, they're actually starting to get more comfortable with selling it. So when you look across the board here, I mean, on the dailies, you get a pretty aggressive sort of shorter term resistance line, but it is straight down. And this thing looks ready to go to the downside. We may just need to find out if there's anything kooky out of the Fed, and then away it goes. The trends are in place. They've been pausing. The main thing, what I'm looking at is, and this is, I've been looking at this for 30 years or 31 years. You get a bit of a pause. Now, Sterling's got its own thing going on with Brexit, but it's still on this sort of uptrend as well. You get this pause, as I was going to say there, on some of these pairs, like the Aussie, Kiwi, Euro. Usually at that stage, the market will challenge the downside and you get a flush out of short-term longs. But you know what? The market's held in, which tells me people are still buying and actually probably getting more comfortable with a weaker dollar. Dollar yen, as I said, dipping to the downside. Dollar CAD is also, once again, broken back down through that trend line. So that's just the simple process of finally redrawing the trend line. So it's under pressure. The dollar's under pressure against the yen and the and dollar CAD, and I expect it to come under further pressure, barring any sort of crazy stuff here from the Fed, right? Aussie, Euro, and Kiwi probably up another 150, 200 points. Sterling, obviously caught up with the Brexit thing, but if there's no news there, then it should sort of possibly go or keep going itself. And that's all you need to be focusing on. You're like waiting for that catalyst. You can see the dollar pairs here not matching up quite nicely. As you can see here, the net change today has been hardly anything because the moves are emanating from the North American session. During the Asian session, they're stalling. They start to get a bit of movement during the European session, but really it's coming down to the North American session. That's where the core news is. That's where you got to focus, right? Now, if you're not in that time zone, well, don't beat yourself up and think, oh, I've got to stay up all night. Now, that's not going to create a good outcome anyway. So just keep an eye on the Fed, right? That's all you can do at this point. You've always got one eye on the geopolitical news that's coming around, they try and give you reasoning why the dollar is where it is. Okay, so as we're waiting US stimulus, remember that when that US stimulus package came out, everything went mental. Now it's old news, doesn't have the same impact. The Fed meeting will be important for the dollar, of course. The most important thing. If there's any variance there, then that could sort of throw things out a bit. But right now, I'd be surprised if the dollar does not continue to the downside and we see all of those other pairs rally to the top side. The writing's on the wall. All righty. Okay. Well, good luck, guys. I'll tell you what, actually, one thing just before I go, if the Fed actually does something really crazy and the dollar rallies hard, then don't get too disappointed because we have support trend lines here on Aussie, Kiwi, Euro, Sterling, and we've got resistance trend lines here on dollar CAD. And if I switched over to the Swiss, you'd see the exact same thing on the Swiss. All right, guys, that's it from me. Plenty to play for today in the North American session. Cheerio.